Come on, phone. There we go. Is that looking good? Get this blanket out of the way. Look a little professional, at least a bit. Not really. Anyway, hey guys, how's it going? Azrin here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to this late night language learning Q&A. I'm a night owl, and so I am often awake at night working. And today, I thought to wrap up my night, I would do a late night language learning Q&A. I did one on my Facebook page the other day, and I thought, hey, let's bring it to YouTube. So what I've got here is I've literally got Reddit open, and on Reddit there are a number of different, lots of different language learning questions in the different subreddits that I'm a part of. So I'll read through some of these questions and answer them for you. If people end up watching this live, or if you're watching the recording, feel free to post in the comments or the live chat any questions you have, and I'm happy to answer them in this video if it's in the live chat, or in the next video if it's in the comments. All right, so let's dive right in. First question here on Reddit. Would it be hard for me to relearn conversational Chinese, and how do I go about it? So this is a really good question. When you have learned a language in the past and you have a base and you want to relearn it, how hard is it? Well, in general, I find that it's easier. In general, I find it's much easier. If you had a base in Mandarin, if you had a base in French and Spanish, in whatever language, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, this individual here had a base, looks like he studied it for 5 years, and so he had a somewhat of a base for sure, right? When you go back to it, it's much, 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 much easier. I can tell you a story to demonstrate this. I run a business called the Calgary Language Nerds, and we teach private classes for a wide variety of languages. And often we get people who take classes and they studied the language years ago and they haven't looked at it in a while. And when these people go back to learning, the progress is like hyper fast. Even people who learned a language 20 years ago, back when they were in 6th grade or 4th grade or whatever, even when they were much, much, much younger, and they haven't studied it since then, still it tends to be something relatively a lot easier to pick back up. So definitely should be easier to, it's definitely easier to relearn a language than it is to learn a language from scratch. Now, how do you go about relearning, in this case, conversational Mandarin, or really any language? How do you go about learning it, or relearning it? Well, I think here we need to get a bit specific. So a couple of general principles. Relearning a language and learning a language are not all that different. That's a good general principle. The same principles you would use when learning a language, you can use when relearning a language, frankly, right? The same principles you use when relearning a language or learning a language, you can use them anyway. So lots of listening, lots of reading, lots of conversation, lots of, a lot of the basics for learning a language still apply. There's nothing all that different. I would say get started. Doesn't matter how you start small, and that snowball will eventually grow. Okay? So I see people joining the live stream here. I see 10 people are watching. If you want to ask a language learning question, feel free to post it in the live chat. I'm going to move on to the next question here on Reddit. Let me scroll down here. Okay. Here we go. I've completed the Italian course on Duolingo. What do I do next? Good question. So yes, in the comments, live stream, feel free to ask any language learning questions. Happy to answer. So this one here, I've completed the Italian course on Duolingo. What do I do next? Well, that's a great question. So apps such as Duolingo are a wonderful place to start, but they generally, they basically never actually lead to fluency, right? It doesn't lead to fluency, okay? And so after you've used an app, you have, I would say, 2 big things that I would recommend you do. The first one is actually get interaction with native speakers. Now, the most straightforward way to do that is to hire a private tutor. Private tutors are often not that expensive. If you go to a website such as italki.com, that's italki.com, you can usually find a private tutor for a pretty affordable rate. And even if you're talking to a tutor just a couple times a month, half an hour each time, 45 minutes each time, that already is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful start. Other ways to find native speakers to talk to would be just locally, Facebook groups, meetup groups, the local community. Or, of course, if you want to take a more extreme approach, you could travel abroad. You could travel to a country that speaks XYZ language, right? There are some free ways to get some real life interaction, conversation with native speakers. You can use an app such as Hello Talk, which pairs you with someone who is learning, who speaks the language you're learning and is learning the language that you speak. So you're learning English. You speak English. You're learning Spanish. They speak Spanish. They're learning English. So then you kind of help each other out. Okay. Hello, people in the live chat. This is a live stream where we're talking about language learning. We're talking about how to go about learning foreign languages. Okay, let me just look in the chat here. Are there any legitimate questions? Let's see. I don't understand one of these questions here. So, how did I saw and what is the word? I don't know what that question means. So just if you could reword that, be a bit more clear, that would be wonderful. Okay. So yes, conversation will always be very helpful if you're moving on from an app. The other thing you'll want to do is just lots of listening and reading, frankly. Lots and lots of listening and reading. Find stuff that's at your level. So it could be podcasts or books or little texts online, something in a textbook. These are all very, very good options. Okay. My general rule of thumb is apps, generally speaking, this is a very sweeping statement. There are exceptions to this, but generally speaking, apps are just a good way to start, but they definitely don't lead you to fluency. Okay? Let's go on to another question here. For the 17 people in this live stream here, probably I would say half of you are legitimately watching, and there's probably half that are bots or here just to leave random spam comments or whatever, but hey, whatever. You're all here. Hello. If you have a legitimate language learning question, feel free to post it in the comments in the live chat, and I'm happy to answer. Let's move on to the next question here on Reddit. Okay. All right. Next question here. What are the best YouTube channels for conversation practice? Now, generally for YouTube channels, that's not where you're going to go for conversation. YouTube is better for language learning tips. It's better for grammar. It's better for listening. It's better for, could be better for reading. Maybe there are some YouTube channels that have readings and they do some reading practice on YouTube. It's not the best on YouTube, but it does exist. I would say that for conversation purposes, YouTube might be in last place for how useful it is, right? Might be in last place. Oh my goodness, 22 people watching live. This is like a record. Hello, 22 people. This is amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, YouTube is probably your worst place for conversation practice. Conversation practice is better done with tutors, language exchange partners, even a lot of AI apps. I've never actually tried any, frankly, but I would say that an AI conversation app is probably much better than, just a YouTube channel. So, YouTube channels for conversation practice, probably there aren't any because I don't think YouTube is meant for conversation practice. It's not really what the platform is designed for. Okay, let's scroll down here. Okay, here is a similar question to what we had earlier, but a little bit different. So this is a question from someone who has a heritage language. So this is a language that he grew up with. He grew up with Mandarin, and he used to speak it quite well. Apparently grew up speaking it, but now he's forgotten a lot. And actually it's a she, sorry. She's forgotten a lot. And she's like, how do I go about learning a language that I used to speak, very, very well, but now I've lost? And this is really common for people that have a heritage language. They grew up with a language with their family, with their parents or their uncles and aunts and so on and so forth. But as they get older, they lose a lot of it. I can relate personally in a way, right? I can relate personally, frankly. because I speak Gujarati. My family speaks Gujarati. I grew up with it. And, at a certain point, you start to use more English with the family and more English at home. So I can totally feel where this person comes from. I can share my own personal story first. For Gujarati, I first learned how to read. I couldn't read before. Now I can. I learned to write. And that opened up the number of resources I could use. It allowed me to use reading as a learning tool. I then signed up for some private classes. You see, when you take, for me anyway, I find that group classes for me in Gujarati wouldn't have been a good option. A, they don't exist, but even if they did exist, I don't think they would have been a good option. My level was so all over the place because, again, I grew up speaking language and I lost some. I grew up with it and knew some things, didn't know other things, right? And so I think for me, the private classes was the way to go. And so that's something that I would probably at least consider from your perspective, for the person on Reddit here. I would also consider depends on how much you know, but even just starting to watch some shows and really just talking to people again, that might already just brush a lot of that rust off, and just diving back into the community. I find that people that grew up with a language can really benefit from studying the grammar of the language, textbooks, through classes, online resources. Just studying some of the basic grammar can often be very, very helpful too, because you often just speak it so intuitively. You don't know the grammar rules. Knowing the grammar rules actually does often help to give you some confidence and helps you to just be a bit stronger in the language overall. So hope that helps. Okay, so out of the people watching this live, if you have any legitimate comments, I hope we can get one. My goal is to get one legitimate comment today. I've been recording these live streams for a few days now, and I'm not sure how many legitimate comments there have been. So hopefully today we can get one legitimate language learning question or language learning comment. Even if you type in today, if we can probably make a record. We can set a record today. If you literally just type in the chat one language that you would like to learn or you are learning, that'll get some legitimate comments in the chat and we'll break a record because it's never really happened before. So type in the comments if you want to in the live chat. What language are you learning, if any, or would you like to learn? French, Mandarin, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, Arabic, Blackfoot, Portuguese, Galician. Type any language you're learning or you'd like to learn. We'll see if we get one today. Maybe yes, maybe no. It's a game. All right. Next question here. Why are we all learning languages? So this is in a language learning forum. It's like, why are we learning languages? Why do people do this? Well, I mean, I know for me, it's a lot of fun. It's related to work. It's been a major part of my life since I was really a kid, frankly. I went to a French school. I had English-speaking friends. My family spoke Gujarati. My dad's side spoke Hindi, although I spoke English with them. In high school, I went to France for a 3-month exchange trip. I came back. I took high school Spanish, just like a regular high school Spanish class. I loved it. Had friends who took the class. I loved that class. And then majored in Spanish and French after that in university. I studied in France yet again. I spent 3 months. 3 months in South America. I'd started to learn Mandarin next, and I took linguistics in university. And oh my goodness, it's been a huge part of my life. And I just can't really imagine a world where I don't learn languages and don't speak different languages in my day-to-day world, So, yeah. Okay. I'm a beginner. Hang on a sec here. Okay. I'm a beginner struggling to learn Spanish. I'll actually read this entire comment to give some extra context. I've learned some Spanish in high school, but that hasn't really helped me much. I really want to be able to speak the language, and I don't know how to go about doing so. I learned some words, but I'm really struggling with grammar, and I recently heard that learning phrases is better than standalone words. Is this true? If so, can anyone drop some phrases and possibly... Okay, we'll actually leave it there. So in short, beginner learner here, learned in high school, wants to be able to speak, doesn't really know how to go about it. They learn some words, but grammar's tough. What do they do, right? What do they do here? Well, listen, first of all, know that at the beginner level, especially if you're inexperienced with language learning, it's hard to know how to go about it. It's hard to know. Do you learn words? Do you learn phrases? Do you do grammar? Do you speak? How do we do this, right? I'd like to start the answer to this question with a slight tangent. So a tangent and a bit of a story. So in 2016, I decided that I wanted to take my health more seriously. I was eating all the wrong foods. I wasn't sleeping enough. I worked a lot. I probably worked 80 hours a week, something like that. High stress job, and no water, all junk food, like just everything you could be doing wrong with your health. I was doing wrong with my health. Wasn't working out, wasn't doing any form of exercise at all. So everything you shouldn't be doing, I was doing. Everything you should be doing, I wasn't doing. Okay. In 2016, I decided, hey, I think I need to do something about this. This is not good. Now, in the beginning, I tried to go it alone, and I used whatever knowledge I did have. So I tried to fix my sleep. I would drink more water. I used a lot of the knowledge that I did have, and I did get better. But frankly, all of the biggest progress that I've seen with my health has been when I've actually worked with an expert. So I have a personal trainer right now, as an example. And that has been the first time since 2016 that I actually can experience, see, feel differences in my body. I'm actually stronger. Like I'm actually better. And it's actually mind-boggling just to what extent I am getting better after actually working with a professional. So a lot of the language learning questions that I see when I'm on Reddit or that people ask me, a lot of the questions that I see often stem from people that just don't know anything about how to learn languages. It's like saying, how do I perform heart surgery? And you YouTube it or you Google it or you like, of course you could do that and it's helpful, but what you actually need often is just either expert instruction from someone who really knows how to do it. In the case of heart surgery, that's obviously very, very, very important. Or at a bare minimum, at an absolute bare minimum, it's going to be a ton of self-study to teach yourself how to actually learn something, how to actually learn a language, excuse me. And in my experience, I find that it's a lot faster. It's a lot faster to work with some expert that can guide you, that can provide guidance. And weirdly, it's cheaper, but it's cheaper in a way that is counterintuitive in a way. So I'll explain this, right? It's cheaper in the sense of your time is worth something. Think about your full-time job or whatever you do for work. Figure out what your time is worth hourly, and you can figure out how much money you waste in all the hours that you're trying to find the right ways to learn a language, right? So there's money being wasted there. I think as well, there's the emotional cost for people that really care. There's the emotional cost of struggling and not making that progress when you really care deeply about it, of course. So I do find that even just a little bit of support from an expert, a really good tutor, or like even just from my business, I'm not the only person who does this. A language coach, there's lots of language coaches. Like even just a little bit of interaction with them, just to get some guidance, is tremendously helpful, I find. So anyway, to this individual's question specifically, so how do you really get started? Well, you have a couple of options. I would say that start with something low key, an app, group class, something that's relatively low pressure, and then kind of build from there. It's really important to be doing lots of listening and lots of reading, ideally to things that are at your level. That's very, very important. It's important to be talking to people in the language that you're learning. You don't have to talk immediately, but it will be important. Those are some of the biggest things. This individual specifically wondering about grammar. One straightforward way to get an introduction to grammar is to buy a grammar book and just complete it, right? A self-study grammar book, and work your way through it. Do the exercises, do the workbook, right? There's a lot of great videos on YouTube, and that's a great way to get started. Ultimately, yeah, I mean, that's probably, one of the thoughts going through my mind is it sounds like this individual has to sign up for something. Like if you're really having a difficult time, if you're really lost in trying to learn something on your own, it sounds like you have to find a program and sign up for it, really. Whether it's a course, self-study app or a podcast. Like you need to sign up for something that provides that structure if you're really feeling that lost. And in a way, when you're first getting started, it actually doesn't really matter what you sign up for because you're so new. So yeah. Oh, we almost for half a second. I saw the question in the chat, in the live chat, and for half a second, I read, "How can I?" And I was like, "Oh, we got a legitimate language learning question. Yes, not a spam bot. Hooray!" That's what I thought. But no, we do not have a language learning question. We have something that is, well, not a language learning question. I don't know. I would say probably Google it. I'm not really sure, unfortunately, Jesse. Anyway, so let's see. What time is it here? Do I still have time? Yeah, I'll do one more question. Let's do one more here, then I'll wrap it up. Okay, we're still trying to break the record, guys. We're still trying to break the record. One comment about learning languages would allow us to break a record. So far on live streams, we've had lots of non-language comments, lots of spam, lots of unrelated comments and questions. But maybe today we can get one question about learning languages, even something basic like, how do I learn French? What's the best way to do this? Or how do I learn grammar? Or anything. So if you have one, type it in. Love to answer it. Okay, let's go back to Reddit. Okay, I actually love this question. I love this one. This is a great question to wrap up on. So this is a question on Anki or Anki. It's an app. It's like a flashcard app, if you haven't heard of it, that uses a concept called space repetition. Now, people love using this app. And this individual said, "Can you please share the allure of this app? I read that people find it really helpful, but I found it overwhelming, difficult to navigate, and confusing." So I find this is pretty common. Like some people love it. I do find that a significant percentage of people, when they use it, they have a hard time. They don't know how to use it. They don't like it. They find it overwhelming. I've used it. I've tried to use it myself I probably tried like 3 or 4 different times to use this app. And I always end up stopping it. I've even read like a book. I read a book called Fluent Forever, which walks you through a very detailed tutorial of how to use this app very effectively. And it's just too much for me. It just didn't land. And I find for a lot of language learners, I talk to a lot of language learners. I talk to literally like thousands, frankly, over the years. And this is really common. I find that a lot of people struggle with it. So whenever I give language learning advice, I try hard. It's not always possible, but I try really hard to give advice that would work for the highest percentage of people. And Anki, in my experience, is not an app. It's not a tool I can just tell you to use and just works for like everyone. It just doesn't, right? So yeah, it's definitely a resource it's worth trying. And a lot of you will love it, frankly, because a lot of people do love it. But again, it's like a 50-50 coin toss. You might like it, you might not. Worth a try, but it might not work. Okay? And I believe that, let me see, any other questions here? Yeah, let's wrap it up there. That's a good place to wrap it up. It's getting kind of late, a little bit late here. It's 11:45, so thanks for watching. We did not break the record today of getting a legitimate language learning question, but we can try again next time. Okay? Have a great day. See you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.